Welcome to the Forgotten Narrator. There is a place in the Imperium where the ground itself screams in agony, where every breath is a gamble and every drop of water costs a life. Necromunda. It is not merely a hive world, it is the graveyard of human potential. An empire's dream rotted from within, stacked mile upon mile in towers of soot-stained steel and corpse dust. Here, humanity does not merely struggle to survive, it devours itself with gleeful hatred. There are no cities, no forests, no oceans, only hives. Monolithic towers, piercing the poisoned skies like rusted spears, and beneath them, endless catacombs of crime, cannibalism, and decay. Necromunda is not a planet, it is a verdict. Everything about this world is a warning that the Imperium will never admit. The Underhive teems with warlords raised from the ashes of their dead, gangs birthed in chemsmoke and broken teeth, noble houses rotting behind plasteel palaces. Every soul, from the cradle to the gutter, is part of a cycle of suffering given form. Necromunda is a wound in the galaxy's flesh, a gaping sore left to fester and bleed, because it still produces weapons, still mines ore, still feeds the war machine. In the eyes of the Imperium, that makes it worthy. In truth, it is the clearest mirror we have of the Imperium's soul. What lives here are not just men and women. They are ghosts, vermin, and predators, trapped in a world that has forgotten how to die. From orbit, Necromunda resembles a charred cinder drifting in space, a bloated ember of human industry cloaked in pollution and misery. Its skies are bruised with endless storms of industrial waste, its clouds not made of water, but of chemical vapor and ash. The surface itself is a sprawling wasteland, a scarred battlefield between dead ecosystems and human ambition. There is no untouched land left. Not a single blade of wild grass, not a single unpoisoned stream. The very crust of the planet has been mined, drilled, scorched, and bled dry until even the rocks beneath seem to scream in agony. Necromunda is a grave, not just for bodies, but for every dream of a better world. The planet's crust groans under the weight of the hives, monolithic towers stretching dozens of kilometers into the sky, each one a monument to mankind's refusal to die. Hive cities, or simply hives, are not constructed but grown, layer upon layer of urban decay stacking for millennia. These megastructures are the size of continents, housing hundreds of billions of souls in vertical catacombs where daylight is a myth and clean air a forgotten luxury. Between them lie ash wastes, plains of industrial slag and irradiated ruins where nothing lives unless it kills to survive. Toxic storms scream across these dead lands, flaying exposed skin, melting metal, and twisting the bones of any creature foolhardy enough to dwell there. Hive Primus is only the most infamous among many. Others, like Hive Secundus, now sealed and crawling with genestealer horrors, or Hive Mortis, long since overrun by plague and decay, dot the surface like rot blooming across a corpse. Each hive is a relic of the dark age of technology, warped by time and desperation into something that defies logic. The oldest sectors are partially collapsed, fused with newer structures, and often haunted by feral scavengers or worse. The foundations of these cities delve so deep into the crust that they pierce natural magma flows and ancient vaults no one remembers building. Above, the spires glitter with the cold lights of the noble classes. Below, the Underhive festers in darkness and filth. But perhaps the greatest tragedy of Necromunda lies not in its poisoned air or collapsing infrastructure, but in the illusion that life continues here. Humans are born, raised, enslaved, and killed all within a few kilometers of their birthplace, often never seeing the sky. Entire generations work the same manufactorums, mine the same tunnels, and die in the same hab blocks without question. This is a planet where dreams are not crushed, they are never even allowed to form. Education is a luxury of the elite, and for the rest, literacy is functionally optional. Language itself is warped by dialects and gang cant, reflecting the brutal, immediate concerns of its users. No poetry thrives here, only warnings, threats, and commands. And yet, life persists. In the gutters of the Underhive, in the smog-choked alleyways of Midhive, and in the rusted skulls of ash-waste ruins, human beings endure. Children play among the bones of their ancestors. Old men tell stories of things they've never seen but believe anyway. Even in the heart of suffering, some find meaning, whether through religion, violence, or sheer stubbornness. The planetary ecosystem is a man-made one, an ecosystem of suffering, ritual, and adaptation. Every breath taken is a battle against entropy, a declaration that extinction has not yet come. There is no wildlife on Necromunda in the traditional sense. The fauna that exists is either mutated beyond recognition or engineered for war, vermin that thrive on chemical sludge and bone meal. Rats with too many eyes, corpse worms the size of a man's arm, spore molds that eat steel. Flora, too, is an aberration. Fungal growths that feed on human waste and corpses, luminescent mosses that coat abandoned walls, and algae that form the base of nutrient slurries. The planet does not support life. It merely tolerates it. And in that tolerance, humanity has twisted into something monstrous. Necromunda stands as an indictment of human persistence. It proves that the species can survive in any environment, even one utterly hostile to its own biology. But survival here does not mean triumph. It means stasis, regression. It means accepting a world where the sky rains poison and the only escape is through death or violence. This is the heart of Necromunda's tragedy, that it is not a place where humanity has lost. It is a place where humanity never stops losing, yet continues on anyway, dragging its broken carcass forward because it has forgotten how to do anything else. Hive Primus is not a city. It is a relic of deranged ambition, a mountain of metal and blood forged in the crucible of endless war and imperial necessity. At its peak, it pierces the upper atmosphere, crowned with palatial spires where nobles drift through perfumed air in isolation chambers, pretending the world beneath does not exist. But the vast majority of Hive Primus is not this high-towered splendor. It is an ever-decaying labyrinth of hab blocks, manufactoria, cult shrines, and kill zones, layered so thickly that sunlight has not touched most of its inhabitants in over a dozen generations. Hive Primus is not built upward alone. It also dives down, plunging through hundreds of strata into the bones of the planet itself, each level deeper becoming more lawless, more twisted, more broken. This is a place where the machine god is worshipped not in doctrine but in exhaust and motion. Great forges thunder without pause, smelting ore and bone alike into ammunition for a war none of its citizens will ever see. Everything that can be stripped for resources is harvested, down to the bones of the dead, melted and pressed into nutrient bricks, armor panels, or synthetic building material. The Mechanicus has a strong presence here, not out of altruism or curiosity, but necessity. Hive Primus operates on ancient systems no one fully understands, a tech priest's playground of half-functional machines that work only out of habit or fear. Holy oil slicks the floors, cogitators hum with corrupted prayers. To be born in Hive Primus is to become part of a living, dying machine, one that demands flesh to stay alive. In the middle hives, where the machinery of production truly churns, you find the meat of Necromunda's industrial soul. Here, workers march into manufactoria like ants into the jaws of a predator, knowing they may never return. Automated systems fail constantly, but cannot be replaced. So human labor fills the void. Flesh is cheaper than maintenance. Limbs are lost to conveyor belts and power presses. Spinal cords are cooked by radiation leaking from containment pipes older than recorded history. And yet, quotas must be met. Failure is not punished by dismissal, but by death. Or worse, demotion into the sump sectors where life expectancy is measured in days. But beneath all of that, beyond the awareness of the average citizen, sprawls the underhive, Necromunda's true heart of darkness. It is not mapped. It cannot be. Its shifting tunnels, collapsed structures, and gang-controlled zones defy imperial logic. Here, ancient secrets lie buried beside the bones of forgotten empires. Here, men and women cease to be citizens and become prey, predators, or both. The underhive is not merely dangerous. It is actively hostile, filled with toxic pools, unstable structures, chem leaks, and warp-tainted cults. Some claim even darker things dwell here. Mutant intelligences, ancient AI cores, Xenos artifacts. Most dismiss these as delusions brought on by exposure to sump gas or spire wine. But the few who return from deep expeditions bring back relics that should not exist. They never speak of what they saw. The most chilling aspect of Hive Primus is that it works. Not well, not efficiently, but it continues, it functions. Ammunition flows to the Imperial Guard. War machines are built. Armored plating, las rifles, and even basic rations are exported in obscene quantities. Hive Primus serves the Imperium better than most Forge worlds, and so it is protected, sanctioned, praised even. No matter how many die, no matter how many vanish into the sump or how many workers are consumed by malfunctioning forge spirits. It is said that the Adeptus Terra considers Hive Primus a model of Hive productivity, and perhaps they are right. For in the Imperium, death does not disqualify, it is expected, sanctified. Above the decay, in the spire that rises over all, live the great noble houses, Helmar most of all. They float in orbiting palaces, oblivious to the suffering that props up their lives. They sponsor the gangs. They sanction the brutality. They wage proxy wars through the Underhive like bored gods playing with knives. Their palaces are clean, artificially lit, and perfumed. But every breath they take is paid for in the blood of millions. Every gem in their jewelry is bought with corpses. They know this, and they do not care. Hive Primus is the cathedral of the Imperium's unspoken truth, that humanity does not just endure suffering, it industrializes it. If the Imperium had a blacksmith for its flesh, House Goliath would be its hammer. Towering brutes of gene-enhanced muscle and industrial rage, the Goliaths are more than just warriors. They are living monuments to the gospel of brutality. Born not from wombs but from gene vats and growth chambers, every Goliath is forged, not born. They are not shaped by nurture, but by programming, hormones, and pain. Their entire existence is a grotesque celebration of the philosophy that might is not only right, it is sacred. The Goliaths rule their territory in the Underhive like barbarian kings. Their forges burn night and day, and their gang strongholds are as much foundries as they are fortresses. Iron and fire are the languages they speak, and to enter their domain is to breathe in ash and the stink of testosterone-fueled violence. But to understand House Goliath is to understand the desperation of Necromunda, because these warriors are not merely thugs. They are engineered survivors of a world that punishes weakness more than it rewards strength. Their massive bodies, often bordering on the inhuman, are adaptations to an environment where normal flesh withers under pressure. Their size is not for glory, it is armor against extinction. The genesmiths of House Goliath are as revered as priests. These twisted artisans splice DNA with a zealotry bordering on religious fervor, treating genomes like sacred texts and mutation as holy scripture. They craft new generations like weapons, fine-tuning aggression, endurance, and obedience. But their work is flawed, not out of incompetence, but necessity. Stable genomes are a luxury. Instead, Goliath bodies often overgrow, turning into grotesque parodies of muscle and bone, or collapse prematurely in bursts of organ failure and cancerous overload. Yet these are not seen as failures. They are offerings, sacrifices made at the altar of supremacy. This is the heart of Goliath philosophy, that strength must be proven through pain, earned through conflict, and maintained through dominance. Their society is tribal, almost primal, ruled by the strongest or the cleverest who can command strength. Leadership is won in combat, kept by fear, and lost in death. Respect is not given, it is taken, wrestled from the jaws of rivals in brutal arena bouts or ambushes. Even within a single gang, loyalty is conditional. Everyone is a rival waiting for weakness. There are no old men in Goliath gangs, only the dead and the feared. Yet beneath the surface-level savagery lies something more complex. A strange kind of honor. Goliaths do not lie easily. They don't trade in subterfuge. In their world, words are less important than action. And betrayal is not cleverness, but cowardice. They see the other houses as soft, deceptive, manipulative. Even the Eschers, their sworn enemies, are viewed with disgust for using toxins and mind games instead of a clean brawl. To a Goliath, death in combat is sacred. It is proof that you mattered, that your flesh was not wasted. Culturally, the Goliaths have developed their own aesthetics, brutalist iconography carved into muscle and steel. They tattoo their bodies with chems and heat brands, wear armor that exaggerates their monstrous forms, and often graft metal directly into their flesh. Chains, skulls, and symbols of power hang from their bodies like medals of honor. Music, if it can be called that, is percussive industrial noise, hammering beats and roaring vocals that echo the sound of a forge mid-rage. Art is molten sculpture, welded from scrap, shaped by fire. Beauty is measured in function. Everything else is weakness. And yet, for all their power, House Goliath is a slave to its own systems. The genesmiths who control reproduction and enhancement are untouchable, almost divine in authority. Goliaths may be strong, but they are also expendable. Many are vat-grown with expiration dates, their bodies designed for brief, explosive lifespans. The lucky ones live long enough to earn respect. The rest die namelessly, fed back into the forges that birthed them. There's no room for mourning, only production. In many ways, Goliath society mirrors the Imperium itself, a brutal hierarchy where life is a resource and strength is the only law. But whereas the Imperium hides behind religion and bureaucracy, Goliath strips the lie away. Here, you are only what you can kill. You only exist for as long as you can defend your right to exist. And when you can't, you're melted down, recycled, and replaced. There is no dignity in death, only the temporary pause it grants to those still standing. To stand among the Goliaths is to live in constant readiness, for war, for betrayal, for annihilation. But in that readiness is a clarity most of Necromunda lacks. They know exactly who they are. And in the Underhive, that might just be the closest thing to peace. If House Goliath is forged in fire and muscle, then House Escher is born in venom and vision. They are the daughters of the Hive, the Chem Witches, the Gene Queens. Their beauty is as lethal as it is deliberate, a sculpted weapon of rebellion against a universe that tried to discard them. Where others see weakness in femininity, House Escher sees supremacy. Their entire culture is a blade aimed at the heart of biological tyranny. Theirs is a war not just against rival gangs or noble houses, but against genetic stagnation, against the flawed remnants of a dying human species. In their veins, revolution flows like poison. It was not ideology alone that shaped them, but necessity. The toxic conditions of Necromunda ravaged the human genome. Across centuries, male birth rates in their line collapsed. Mutations bred infertility, hormonal collapse, and degenerative disorders. Many houses would have faded into extinction. Escher refused. They turned to alchemy, to gene hacking, to the biotechnological heresies others feared. In secret vaults and chem labs, their bioalchemists sculpted solutions, rewriting their own flesh. Where the Imperium preaches purity, Escher preaches adaptation. The result? A culture entirely dominated by women, elegant, violent, and chemically divine. To outsiders, Escher gangs seem chaotic, flamboyant, even theatrical. Hair like wildfire, skin painted in combat dyes, armor that combines catwalk and killing field. But that is the illusion of distraction. Every aesthetic choice is calculated. Coloration is psychological warfare. Perfumes are neurotoxins. Their weapons are laced with drugs designed not to kill, but to make enemies suffer hallucinations, seizures, and burning pain. They don't just win battles, they perform them. To fight House Escher is to be disoriented, demoralized, and broken before the first blade even finds flesh. Their mastery of chems borders on arcane. Combat drugs that turn pain into speed, healing serums brewed in gang-run labs, concoctions that twist perception or overload muscle. Each Escher gang is a mobile apothecary of unregulated miracles. Some concoctions are unstable, even suicidal. But that is part of the appeal. Control is an illusion. Power lies in walking the edge of overdose and transcendence. Even in death, they burn brighter than their enemies. Escher society is matriarchal, not as a reversal of patriarchy, but as an evolved response to a biological apocalypse. Leadership is earned through cunning, ferocity, and alchemical genius. Gang queens rule their territories like chem goddesses, maintaining power through both charisma and fear. Betrayal is common, but so is loyalty born of shared transformation. They don't see themselves as human anymore, not entirely. They are a new breed, an improvement, the next step in the Hive's evolutionary war. Yet, their superiority complex is tempered by bitterness. The noble houses still treat them as unstable. The Goliaths see them as manipulative, the Delaques as theatrical, the Saar as reckless. The truth is more complex. House Escher walks a tightrope between brilliance and madness. Their genetic experiments sometimes fail catastrophically. Some of their creations, vat-grown beasts, failed clones, bioexplosives, escape containment. The deeper one goes into their laboratories, the more likely one is to find something that should not live. And yet, they press on, because standing still is death. And House Escher does not die. They train their members from youth in biochemistry, agility, psychological warfare. Where Goliath favors brute dominance, Escher trains for the precise strike. A flick of a poisoned blade, a whisper of hallucinogenic gas, a seduction turned evisceration. And all the while, they laugh. Not because they are cruel, though many are, but because they've seen the truth of Necromunda. Everything is poisoned already. They've simply learned to make it work for them. Perhaps most fascinating of all is their contradiction. They are both deeply individualistic and fiercely tribal. Each gang reflects the personality of its matron, each warrior her own creation. Yet, there is unity in their mutation, in the shared knowledge that they are not what the Imperium wanted. They were meant to disappear, to be purged by failed genetics. Instead, they carved out empires in the Underhive with stilettos and syringes. House Escher is what happens when you give the victims of imperial neglect the tools to rewrite their destiny, and they choose to become nightmares clad in elegance. In the hollow corridors of the Underhive, where the stench of oil and ozone blends with the blood of 1,000 forgotten workers, House Orlock grinds forward, relentless, scarred, and grimly functional. They call themselves the House of Iron, and it is not a boast but a blood-stamped truth. If the hives are vast engines of decay, then House Orlock are its pistons, pumping ore, fuel, and flesh through the machine of survival. They are the iron heart of Necromunda's industrial metabolism, and every beat is a roar of chain blades, gravrail wheels, and low-sun worker chants echoing through collapsing tunnels. Orlock is a house of miners, haulers, and machine riders. Unlike the brute-forged Goliaths or the gene-sculpted Eschers, Orlocks come from bloodlines that lived and worked generation after generation in the most dangerous, least glamorous zones of the Hive. They mine the lower levels, crawl through tunnels older than empires, and extract the materials the rest of Necromunda is built upon. Iron, slag, promethium, rare isotopes. Their skills are practical, deadly, and irreplaceable. It's not uncommon for a young Orlock to wield a bolt gun and a mining drill with equal proficiency before their voice fully deepens. The harshness of their work has shaped them, not just physically but philosophically. Orlocks don't preach strength like Goliaths or mutation like Eschers. They value endurance, grit, brotherhood. An Orlock doesn't care what you were born as, only that you can pull your weight, watch their back, and die on your feet when the time comes. Loyalty is their religion, and betrayal is unforgivable. Even their rivals begrudgingly respect the Orlocks for their honesty in warfare. They don't play games. They come hard, fast, and armored, with bullets, spikes, and an attitude of righteous exhaustion. Aesthetically, Orlocks are the closest Necromunda comes to an everyman warrior class. Their armor is practical, cobbled together from mine suits and gang colors. They favor rugged denim, leather, and steel, covered in soot and patched with scraps of sacred metal. They wear their scars proudly, not as trophies, but as proof that they kept going. Motorcycles, tracked haulers, and grav barges form the backbone of their movement, giving their gangs a mobile, fast-striking capability. Orlocks are rarely still. Stillness is for the dead. The most iconic symbol of Orlock culture is the chain. It binds everything in their lives, from the mining gear they haul to the metaphorical chains of duty, family, and gang loyalty. Many Orlocks wear chains as ornamentation, trophies, or even weapons. In brawls, a looped mining chain can serve as a flail, a garrote, or a symbol of one's unbreakable bond to the crew. Their war gear is just as brutal. Shotguns, autoguns, heavy bolters, and crude cybernetics, the tools of survivors who can't afford elegance but never need it. Leadership within House Orlock is based on merit and endurance. The leaders, or road bosses, are veterans who have survived every hellhole the Hive has to offer. They are not noble, not genetically superior, just meaner, tougher, and smarter than the rest. Many began as rig jockeys or tunnel crews and rose through nothing but grit. Decisions are often made communally within gangs, and democracy, though rare in Necromunda, finds a distorted echo here. An Orlock boss who loses the faith of their crew won't last long. They lead because they earn it. Daily. The biggest irony of Orlock life is how necessary they are, and how little power that gives them. Their control of transit routes, promethium tunnels, and mining claims makes them crucial to the Hive's infrastructure. And yet, they are seen as expendable labor by the nobility. Used, discarded, and occasionally crushed when their influence grows too strong. House Helmar tolerates them, but never trusts them. Other houses, particularly the cunning Delaque and the arcane Van Saars, see them as dangerous precisely because they're so deeply entrenched in the Hive's foundation. Despite their underdog role, House Orlock rarely complains. They don't have time. Life is hard, war is constant, and the mines never stop calling. But beneath their stoic exterior is a burning resentment, a pressure building like gas in a sealed shaft. When Orlocks rise, it's not in a sudden frenzy. It's in a coordinated, ground-shaking eruption. Gangs uniting, bikes roaring through supply tunnels, manufactorums going silent as tools are replaced by guns. When they fight, it's for survival. But when they revolt, it's for vengeance. House Orlock is Necromunda's backbone. Not glamorous, not pretty, but without them, everything collapses, and they know it. That knowledge keeps them moving, not with pride, but with purpose. Because if they ever stopped, the entire Hive might remember who really holds it together. House Van Saar is a paradox wrapped in a radiation suit. They are the most technologically advanced house in Necromunda, and yet, at their core, they are a doomed people. Their brilliance is undeniable. Every Van Saar warrior is a walking testament to technical supremacy, clad in advanced armor, wielding weapons that should belong to the Scutarii or the Adeptus Mechanicus. Plasma rifles, grav constructs, microdrones, cybernetic augmentations. They don't just fight wars, they calculate them. But this brilliance comes at a monstrous cost. The very technology that empowers them is also slowly killing them from the inside out. Their secret is both their strength and their curse. A partially functioning standard template construct, STC, buried deep within their stronghold. It is the holy grail of the Mechanicus, technology from the golden age of humanity, capable of producing wonders. And yet, it is broken, flawed, corrupted. Every Van Saar creation carries whispers of that flaw, like a cancer encoded in circuit and steel. Radiation leaks, power cores destabilize, interfaces short out. Their armor glows not with sanctity, but with decay. Every Van Saar is slowly dying, irradiated by their own brilliance, cooked in their own armor, and they know it. To survive, they rely on life-extending treatments, radiation counteragents, and cybernetic organ replacement. The line between man and machine is thinner here than in any other house. Many Van Saar die before they reach 40. Those who live longer do so entombed in exosuits, sustained by synthetic blood and stasis chambers. But they continue, not out of hope, but out of intellectual pride and technological obsession. Their existence is an equation with no solution, but they refuse to stop solving it. Van Saar society is structured with the same logic they apply to their machines. Hierarchical but efficient. The brightest rise, the failures are discarded. Rank is determined by technical aptitude, combat efficiency, and scientific contribution. Their leaders are savants, master crafters who design weapons the Mechanicus would declare heretical, yet cannot replicate. Innovation is worshipped. Emotion is tolerated only when it serves purpose. And yet, beneath the surface, one senses a desperate need for meaning in the face of inevitable decay. Their aesthetic is sterile, angular, and intimidating. Sleek suits of advanced armor hum with internal power sources. HUDs flicker behind visors. Their voices often sound mechanical, filtered through respirators or vocal mods. They are the future the Imperium fears. Humans transformed by necessity into something more than flesh, but less than alive. Their weapons are devastating. Plasma coils, melta-charges, grav guns, energy nets. Even their melee tools are technological masterpieces. Vibroblades, electrostaves, phase knuckles. Every Van Saar is a war asset, but this power isolates them. Other houses see them as cold, alien, even heretical. The Mechanicus tolerates their existence only because of ancient agreements and mutual benefit. Many whisper that Van Saar is close to tech heresy, and perhaps already over the line. But exterminating them would mean losing access to their advanced war gear. So the Imperium, as always, chooses hypocrisy. It allows the slow death of House Van Saar in exchange for the tools they provide to continue its own endless wars. Within their fortified sectors of the Hive, Van Saar territory resembles a cybernetic organ, pulsing with energy, protected by defense grids, monitored by drones. Trespassers are vaporized or dissected. Internally, their arcologies are sterile, eerily silent, and immaculately efficient. Life here is not lived. It is scheduled, regulated, optimized. There is no art, no passion, only progress. And that progress is a lie, because every step forward burns their future a little brighter, a little shorter. There is a deep tragedy at the heart of House Van Saar. They are not mad scientists or ruthless pragmatists. They are desperate survivors clinging to a miracle that is slowly killing them. Their brilliance is a death sentence. And the only thing more terrifying than what they already are is what they might become if they ever stop caring about the cost. When pain becomes meaningless and life becomes an equation, what remains? They are the most advanced, most intelligent, and most doomed of all the houses. And in a world like Necromunda, that makes them perhaps the most human of all. House Delaque is not a house. It is a whisper in the dark, a shadow where there should be none. If Goliath represents brute force and Escher chemical dominance, then Delaque is the manifestation of paranoia given flesh. No one trusts Delaque, not even Delaque themselves. Their bald, pale forms, perpetually swathed in long coats and rebreathers, drift like ghosts through the Hive's undercurrents, speaking in coded phrases and half-sentences. Even their presence in Necromunda feels suspect. Less like a rival house, more like a virus integrated into the system, unnoticed until it's too late. Their origins are obscured, perhaps deliberately. Rumors abound that they were once an intelligence network for the noble houses, or that they made a pact with something not entirely human. Some say the Delaque have latent psychic talents bred into their bloodlines, a dangerous gamble on a world where uncontrolled psychers are incinerated by black ships. But the whispers persist, because they make sense. Delaque always seems to know more than they should. They intercept messages before they're sent. They appear in locations no one spoke of aloud. They anticipate betrayals before the conspirators know they'll commit them. Everything about Delaque is designed to unsettle. Their mannerisms are subdued, their faces often hidden behind lenses and visors that glow like insect eyes. They speak softly and rarely. When they do, it's often in statements that seem meaningless until weeks later. They have 1,000 eyes and 1,000,000 ears, and it's said that the walls themselves speak to them. Not metaphorically, literally. Because Delaque territory is more than just space. It's surveillance incarnate, hidden sensors, audio traps, psychic relays. To step into their domain is to surrender privacy entirely. Unlike the other houses, Delaque doesn't fight in the open unless absolutely necessary. Their gang wars are fought in silence. Assassinations, blackmail, brainwashing. They seed entire regions with rumors that cause rival gangs to tear themselves apart. When they do strike, it's with preternatural precision. A Delaque ambush isn't just an attack, it's an unraveling. Your communications fail. Your ammo cache explodes. Your most trusted lieutenant shoots you in the back and doesn't know why. And then the Delaque fade away, leaving only silence. Psychic potential is the darkest undercurrent of their identity. Officially, the Imperium denies that Delaque breeds psychers. Unofficially, it is all but confirmed. Many within the house are suspected to have low-level psychic abilities. Mind reading, emotional manipulation, precognitive flashes. Nothing overt enough to be sanctioned or purged, but just enough to twist reality ever so slightly in their favor. This possibility terrifies the other houses, especially the Mechanicus and the Enforcers. But no one has ever proven it, and those who try rarely return. Their society is structured like a cell network. No one member knows everything. Gangs operate under layers of misdirection, with handlers, proxies, and whisper nodes acting as intermediaries. Leadership is secretive, possibly shared, possibly controlled by something post-human. There is no visible Lord of House Delaque, no parades or public declarations, only shifting allegiances and messages left in the static between broadcast frequencies. Their aesthetic is Gothic noir, long coats, leather, optical implants, data links sewn into their skulls. They do not decorate. They do not ornament, they refine. Their weaponry is silent, precise, and bizarre. Needle pistols, psychotropic gas, neural disruptors. Combat for them is not a contest of strength, but of control. Every movement planned, every angle covered. Their victories are invisible until the enemy realizes they've already lost. But their greatest weapon is uncertainty. The fear they generate is never quite provable, and that's what makes it effective. You never know if the new recruit in your gang is Delaque. You never know if your orders were intercepted. You never know if the whisper you heard in the dark was your imagination or a message. This omnipresent paranoia isn't a side effect of Delaque presence. It is their goal. They win by making you question everything, including yourself. To encounter House Delaque is to question reality. To serve them is to lose your identity. And to fight them is to fight something that was already behind you when you locked the door. They do not seek power in the traditional sense. They seek information, influence, leverage. Because on Necromunda, bullets can be blocked, muscles can be outmatched. But knowledge? Knowledge kills without leaving fingerprints. Beneath the organized chaos of Necromunda's gang wars and spire politics lies the true currency of the Hive: corpses. Not metaphorically, not symbolically, literally. Flesh is fuel. Blood is rationed. The economy of Necromunda, in all its obscene functionality, is built on the broken bodies of its people. And at the center of this grotesque system are the guilds, bloated, ancient cartels that monopolize life itself. Water, food, waste, air, all of it flows through their hands, regulated by greed, sanctioned by tradition, and enforced with brutal precision. The most infamous of these is the Corpse Guild. It is not a secret. It does not hide. The citizens of Necromunda know full well what they eat: corpse starch, a processed nutrient paste rendered from the dead. Victims of gang violence, failed workers, overpopulated habs, all are recycled. The dead feed the living. There is no room for revulsion. Revulsion is a luxury of surplus. Here utility reigns. Bodies are stripped, sorted, and ground down in vast reprocessing plants that stench of iron and rot. And this isn't a horror whispered in dark alleys. It's standard practice codified in law, normalized through centuries of starvation. The guilders themselves are not mere bureaucrats. They are warlords of infrastructure. Each guild operates like a mini-empire, with enforcers, security teams, mechanized transport, and vast private armies. The Water Guild controls access to clean, or at least drinkable water, distributed in shipments guarded like holy relics. The Prometheum Guilds manage fuel, ensuring that gangs and industry alike remain desperate for their rations. There are guilds for waste, for salvage, for air filtration. Each controls a necessity, each exploits it, and each answers only to Helmar and the credits that keep them alive. For the average citizen, guild presence is both salvation and doom. They bring food, water, heat, and they bring quotas, punishments, and war. Entire domes have been scoured because a water tithe wasn't met. Whole districts collapsed into famine because a guild war rerouted supply lines. The guilds are not neutral. They play the game like everyone else, supporting gangs, undermining rivals, leveraging scarcity as a weapon. To them, human suffering is a tool, and death is not a failure, it's inventory. Worse still is how deeply entrenched the guilds are in every level of the Hive. Even the noble houses rely on them. Even the enforcers turn a blind eye to guild excess. There is no alternative. The guilds are not a symptom of Necromunda's sickness. They are its arteries, pumping blood through a corpse that pretends to be alive. Guilders are born into dynasties of cruelty, taught from childhood how to extract maximum profit from minimum mercy. Their uniforms are gilded mockeries of priesthood and merchant tradition, adorned with symbols of utility as sacred law. And for all this, the people endure. They line up for corpse starch. They barter for breathing masks. They pray for waste processing schedules that won't starve their children, because there is no rebellion in Necromunda without starvation. There is no freedom without dehydration. The guilds hold the lockbox of existence, and they wield it like a cudgel. Even more disturbing is the occasional revelation that the guilds are evolving. Not toward fairness, but toward consolidation. Rumors whisper of inter-guild councils forming, of new technologies in population management, of gene tracking and ration marking systems that would put entire sectors under total behavioral surveillance. A world where every breath is logged, every calorie counted. A system perfected not to nurture, but to maintain stasis. The dream of ultimate control. The corpse economy is the greatest lie ever normalized in the Imperium. Other worlds may pretend they are civilized, enlightened. Necromunda does not bother. It consumes itself openly, proudly. The guilds are the priests of that cannibal creed, and their power is growing. The question is not whether they'll dominate the Hive entirely. They already do. The question is whether anyone even remembers a time when they didn't. In the deepest sump-choked labyrinths of Necromunda, where light no longer dares to shine and even gangs fear to tread, faith festers. Not the structured, dogmatic faith of the ecclesiarchy, but a far more primal religion, one born from madness, mutation, and need. These are the cults, hidden congregations of the forgotten and the damned, each one a living blasphemy against imperial law, yet a perfect reflection of the Imperium's own contradictions. On Necromunda, where hope is a poison and death a sacrament, it is no surprise that cults thrive. They are not aberrations. They are inevitabilities. The Redemptionists are perhaps the most visible and infamous. A splinter of the ecclesiarchy in all but name, they preach a gospel of fire and purification. To them, the Hive itself is a heretical structure, a monument to sin and decay. Their answer is the cleansing flame. They roam the underhive in mobs, chanting hymns in High Gothic, their robes soaked in blood and promethium. Their targets are not just heretics and mutants, but anyone insufficiently penitent. Gangers, workers, children. They see salvation in ashes and holiness in agony, and they believe they are doing the Emperor's work. Then there are the Genestealer cults, insidious infections that bloom like tumors in the dark. They do not announce themselves. They infiltrate. They seduce. What begins as whispers in mining crews and shared dreams between families, a planetary threat. Generations of humans mutated, subverted, and made ready for Xeno's dominion. The cultists themselves do not see this as betrayal. They believe they are chosen, evolved. The touch of the Genestealer patriarch is a religious ecstasy, a genetic transcendence. They work, they die, they wait, all for the day the star children arrive to reclaim them. That the Tyranids see them as nothing more than biomass is a cosmic joke played far too often. Chaos, of course, has its shrines as well. The gods of the warp whisper sweetly to the desperate. Slaves who pray for vengeance, gangers who want to transcend pain, alchemists who seek the perfect form. For each desire, there is a god. Khorne finds followers in rage-soaked gladiators, Slaanesh in pleasure dens hidden beneath chem markets, Nurgle in plague pits that no guild dares cleanse, Tzeentch in the sorcerers who hide among the Delaque and speak in riddles. These cults rarely rise in the open, but when they do, the violence is apocalyptic. Most dangerous of all are the hybrids, cults that blend ideologies, creating theological Frankenstein's monsters. Redemptionist chaos cults that worship the Emperor through acts of mass immolation. Genestealer cults that masquerade as loyalist militias. Psyker-led cabals claiming to receive visions from Saint Helmar himself. These cults twist the Imperium's already broken faith into something grotesque and the Hive's desperation into a weapon. They're nearly impossible to root out because they don't feel like outsiders. They feel like part of the Hive's spiritual ecosystem. Why do cults thrive in Necromunda? Because the Imperium offers only obedience and labor. There is no afterlife, no redemption, no comfort, just more work, more pain. In such a vacuum, any belief becomes a beacon. Cults give people something the Imperium cannot, the illusion of choice, the hope that suffering has meaning. Even if that hope is wrapped in lies and mutation, it is still more than the Mechanicus offers with its doctrines or the guilds with their quotas. But make no mistake, cults are not quaint subcultures. They are time bombs. Every gang war, every ration riot, every guild dispute risks triggering a mass uprising. Cultists often serve as shock troops for deeper agendas, and when they rise, the Hive burns. Even enforcers fear these moments, not just for the violence, but for the realization that the cultists are not strangers. They are neighbors, co-workers, sometimes family. And the terrifying truth is that for every cult uncovered, dozens more go undetected, growing in silence. In the end, the cults of Necromunda are not merely enemies to be purged. They are warnings. Echoes of a civilization so starved for meaning that it devours itself spiritually as well as physically. And in their madness, their heresy, their grotesque pageantry, they may just be the most honest citizens of Necromunda, for they know what the rest deny, that the Hive is already damned, and all that remains is to choose the manner of its fall. There is law on Necromunda, but it is not justice, it is not balance. It is a boot, reinforced with plasteel and sanctioned by nobility, grinding endlessly into the ash-choked streets of the Hive. The Palanite enforcers are that boot, not guardians of order, but tools of repression. They are the black-helmed faces of House Helmar's will, and their presence does not bring safety, it brings silence. Terrified, bloody silence. Enforcers are not recruited from the populace. They are bred, trained, and conditioned in isolation. Most have never lived as citizens. They do not understand the suffering of the Hive. They are designed not to empathize, but to dominate. Their armor is black, their visors mirror-polished, their voices distorted through vox units that reduce the mechanical growls. They do not negotiate. They do not explain, they enforce. And in a world built on desperation, enforcement means extermination. Their methods are surgical and sadistic. When a dome descends into unrest, the enforcers deploy shock teams, heavily armed squads wielding suppression shields, web guns, execution mauls, and concussive riot grenades. Protesters are not arrested. They are crushed. Entire gangs have been wiped out not because of crime, but because they embarrassed the wrong noble. Sometimes whole sectors are placed under cleansing protocols, during which citizens are dragged from their habs, questioned under pain rigs, or vanished entirely. No one ever asks where the bodies go. Everyone already knows. And yet, for all their brutality, the enforcers are not immune to the Hive's corruption. Many are addicted to combat stimulants. Others disappear into the underhive, consumed by their own zeal. Some secretly profit from the very gangs they claim to fight. The Helmar dynasty does not mind, as long as order is maintained and production continues. Loyalty is less important than efficiency. If an enforcer becomes too ambitious or unreliable, they simply vanish, replaced, forgotten. Then there are the bounty hunters, sanctioned, unsanctioned, and everything in between. These killers for hire operate in the shadows between law and lawlessness. Some once served as enforcers themselves. Others are ex-gangers, deserters, mutants, even disgraced nobles. They hunt not for justice, but for credits. Their prey ranges from escaped servitors to rogue psychers, from runaway guild apprentices to gang leaders who forgot to pay the right tithe. And while some bounty hunters adhere to a crude personal code, most are pure predators. They take trophies, they make examples, they kill for efficiency or spectacle, depending on the client. The Imperium officially disapproves of this, but on Necromunda, practicality trumps morality. Bounty hunters serve a function. They vent pressure, clean up messes, and terrify the populace. They are walking reminders that no one is safe, that everyone is prey. In rare cases, true arbitrators descend from orbit. These agents of the Adeptus Arbites are not enforcers. They are inquisitors, judges, and executioners, wrapped in flax steel and law. When an arbitrator arrives, it is because something has gone catastrophically wrong. Their presence signals warp taint, heresy, or political instability threatening Helmar's grip. They do not negotiate with guilder lords, they do not accept bribes. They arrive with dossiers and kill teams, and they leave when silence has been restored. If ever there was such a thing as imperial justice on Necromunda, it is found in their arrival, not as salvation, but as the final word. But such visits are rare. Most of the time, the enforcers act with impunity, protected by doctrine and distance. Their command bunkers sit atop reinforced towers ringed with gun emplacements and automated servitor turrets. From there, they observe, they judge, they strike. And if you kill one, another comes. They are not human in any meaningful sense. They are the mechanical pulse of repression, coded into the Hive's circulatory system. What makes the system truly horrifying is how normalized it has become. Children learn to fear enforcers before they learn to read. Whole families vanish and are never spoken of again. Propaganda depict enforcers as saints, warriors, saviors, even as the streets run red with their salvations. And yet, the people cling to any scraps of law they can. Because as cruel as the enforcers are, what lies without them is worse: anarchy, cults, warp madness. The people pray for mercy from the very boots that stomp them, because the alternative is complete oblivion. On Necromunda, law is not blind. It sees very well. It sees who is weak, who is poor, who is expendable, and it feeds on them with mechanical precision. The average citizen of Necromunda is not a gang leader, a noble, or a cultist. They are the forgotten billions, the faceless, voiceless masses crammed into the rotting carcass of the Hive. They are the ones who do not fight for glory, who do not burn for gods, who do not dream of rebellion. They work, they suffer, they survive. And in their survival, there's a quiet kind of heroism, or perhaps a slow, grinding tragedy that no bard would ever sing. Life begins in the womb of a Hive slum, often in a rusted cradle beside a broken vent or sump drain. Infants breathe recycled air thick with spores and chems. Many do not make it past their first week. Others are born with mutations so subtle that they escape notice, or so blatant that they are discarded. Childhood is not innocence. It is apprenticeship to pain. Boys and girls learn to patch chem leaks, crawl through ductwork, haul refuse, and dodge the boots of arbitrators before they ever learn to read. If they ever learn at all. Education is rare and often gang-controlled. Knowledge is functional: wiring, plumbing, mining techniques, mechanical repair. Philosophy is dangerous. Questioning is fatal. The idea of better is an abstract dream passed down through whispered myths of surface light and off-world riches no one has ever seen. The most a Hive-born citizen can hope for is to become necessary. Not important, just necessary enough not to be culled when rations run low or space becomes a premium. Work is constant. Mornings and nights blur in places where the sun does not shine. Shifts are dictated by factory klaxons and overseer schedules, not circadian rhythm. Nutrient paste is distributed by guild quotas, and water, even in the best domes, tastes faintly of metal and rot. Some citizens subsist entirely on corpse starch and recycled waste. Disease is endemic. Medical care is available only to those in favor with the guilds or local gangs, and often consists of crude cybernetic replacement or amputations done without anesthetic. And yet, somehow, life continues. Marriages occur, usually arranged by circumstance rather than love. Families cling together in rust-welded habs stacked dozens high, rooms no larger than a coffin. Children play with scrap metal, old shell casings, and broken servitors. Jokes are told. Songs are sung, though softly, for fear of being overheard. Every moment of joy is stolen, wrestled from the jaws of despair. Laughter is an act of rebellion. Religion permeates everything. Small shrines dot every corridor, to the emperor, to saints unknown, to machine spirits and ancestral ghosts. Faith is not optional, it is the only balm against total madness. Some pray to avoid notice, others pray to be chosen. Most pray simply to make it through the next hour. Community, fragile as it is, does exist. Hivers form clans, domes organize into mutual aid networks, old women act as herbalists, storytellers, and midwives. Trust is rare, but it is not absent. There are moments, brief and flickering, when a hive sector holds its breath together, when an entire corridor rallies to save a child from collapsing scaffolds or to hide a fugitive from enforcers. These moments do not last, but they are real. Recreation is crude and often violent. Pit fights, stim dens, shock gambling, and chem-induced hallucinations provide brief escape. Storytellers known as dust scribes travel between domes collecting tales, often half-true, of angels, xenos, or mythical heroes who escape to the stars. Their tales offer nothing real but everything hoped for. And always in the background, the hum of industry never stops. It is the lullaby of Necromunda, the sound of gears grinding flesh, the low thunder of machines that have forgotten their purpose. It is the sound of survival without future, because there is no upward mobility here, no promotion, no utopia, just the hope of not dying today. This is the final, inescapable truth of Necromunda, that even those who never hold a gun, never join a gang, and never speak out, even they are warriors. Not in glory but in endurance, not in strength but in stubbornness. They are the living proof that humanity, even reduced to its lowest, most degraded form, will not go quietly. It will crawl, it will bleed, it will adapt. Even in hell, life insists on itself. Necromunda is not just a planet, it is a parable, a vision of the Imperium stripped of all its lies and illusions. It is what happens when humanity stops reaching for the stars and instead burrows into its own rot. Every hive, every guild, every gang is a microcosm of the greater imperial machine, a mirror, cracked and filthy, reflecting back the truth we refuse to see. That the Imperium does not protect, it does not elevate. It does not inspire, it endures, and demands that its people endure with it, no matter how inhuman the cost. The noble spires of Hive Primus are the high lords of Terra, distant, insulated, and convinced of their own divinity. The guilds are the administratum and mechanicus, bureaucratic monstrosities obsessed with quotas and survival. The gangs, they are the Astra Militarum, the Astartes, the Inquisition, all cannibalizing each other for scraps of dominance, glorified by propaganda but born of desperation. Even the cults echo the ecclesiarchy's promises of salvation through suffering. Necromunda is not a deviation from imperial truth. It is its most honest version. Every citizen consumed by a malfunctioning machine press, every child fed corpse starch made from yesterday's labor force, every gang war fought for the entertainment of nobles, all of it is echoed on a million other worlds. The only difference is that Necromunda makes no attempt to hide the corpse behind the throne. It parades it. It worships it. Here, humanity's willingness to devour itself is ritualized, industrialized, celebrated, not because the people are evil, but because the system demands it. And yet, in this apocalypse of steel and ash, there remains something stubborn, something tragically beautiful. Life. Not just survival, but living, even if only for another moment. A stolen kiss in a sump corridor, a child's laughter echoing off rusted walls, a mural painted in blood and soot to honor a fallen friend. These things do not change the system. They do not bring revolution, but they persist. They say we are still here. And in a galaxy where gods are real and death is worshipped, that is a kind of defiance worth remembering. Necromunda is the last word of a species that has forgotten its first dream. It is the end of hope, and yet, paradoxically, proof that hope once existed. Its citizens may never know why they suffer. They may never escape. But every breath they take, every enemy they fight, every step they endure is a story carved into the bones of a dying empire. They are the Imperium's reflection, its conscience and its grave. So the next time you hear someone speak of Necromunda as just a skirmish game, just a setting, just another grimdark world, remember what it really is. A monument to humanity's will to live, even when every system, every god, and every leader has abandoned them. It is not just a world where people kill. It is a world where people refuse to die. If you found meaning in this descent through the hives, if the echoes of Necromunda stirred something in you, then subscribe. Join this journey through the shadows of the Imperium. And remember, in the darkness, even a single flicker is a revolution.